Imagine being 16 years old. Most of us were worried about passing algebra or asking someone to prom. Now, imagine instead of that, you decide to sail around the entire planet, alone. Sounds crazy, right? Well, for one teenager, it wasn't just a wild idea, it was his reality. This is the incredible story of a boy who conquered the oceans before he could even legally vote. Sailing around the world is no joke. It's a feat even seasoned sailors think twice about. It's dangerous, unpredictable, and requires a level of skill and courage most of us can't fathom. Yet, in 2009, a 16-year-old kid named Jessica Watson— oh wait, I meant Jessie Martin. No, it was actually Laura Decker. Just kidding, it was all of them. Yes, this kind of story has happened multiple times. But today we're focusing on one boy in particular, Robin Lee Graham, who became the youngest person to sail solo around the world in 1965. And yes, he started at 16. Back then, GPS didn't exist. You couldn't just pull out your phone and Google, "What's the weather in the middle of the Pacific?" All he had was a 24-foot sailboat, a map, a sextant, and more guts than the average superhero. Let's rewind to where it all started. Robin was born in Minnesota, a place known for its 10,000 lakes, but not exactly oceanfront property. His family eventually moved to California, and that's where he fell in love with the sea. By 16, while most kids were figuring out how to parallel park, Robin was dreaming about crossing oceans. And then, like all great adventurers, he had a crazy idea. Why not sail around the world, alone? His parents, shockingly, didn't say, "Absolutely not." Instead, they were like, "Sure, just be home before dinner." Okay, not exactly, but they supported him. In 1965, Robin set sail from Southern California in a 24-foot boat called the Dove. If you're wondering how big 24 feet is, think of your average living room. Now shrink it. That tiny space wasn't just his transportation. It was his kitchen, his bedroom, and his survival hub for the next 5 years. He had to cram in everything he needed: food, water, navigation tools, spare parts, and, of course, books. Yes, books. Because when you're floating in the middle of nowhere for weeks on end, Netflix doesn't exist, and you've already memorized every corner of your boat, you need something to keep your brain occupied. His journey started smoothly enough, at least as smooth as sailing solo across vast, unpredictable oceans can be. He sailed first to Hawaii, the classic tropical paradise, before heading deeper into the Pacific toward destinations like the dreamy islands of Fiji and Samoa. On paper, it sounds like a gap-year dream: sun-drenched beaches, swaying palm trees, and crystal-clear water. But here's the reality. Imagine days, sometimes weeks, without seeing land. The sun beats down relentlessly during the day, and the nights are pitch black, with only the stars for company. Navigation was a mental chess game. No GPS or smartphones, just a sextant, maps, and pure grit. The Pacific might look serene in travel brochures, but for Robin it was a vast and lonely expanse, occasionally punctuated by storms that turned the water into a swirling, violent monster. And let's not forget the logistical nightmare. Food wasn't gourmet cuisine. It was canned goods, dried meats, and anything that wouldn't spoil under the blazing sun. He'd catch fish when he could and, at one desperate point, resorted to eating seaweed to survive. Can you imagine choking down salty seaweed while waves are slamming into your face? Sounds dreamy now, doesn't it? The isolation also tested his mental limits. Think about it. Weeks at sea with no one to talk to except yourself. And if something went wrong, there was no calling for help. A broken mast, a leaking hull, or running out of water could mean the end of the adventure and his life. Yet somehow he persevered, 1 mile at a time. Picture this. You're out in the middle of the ocean. No Wi-Fi, no Netflix, no snacks, just miles of water in every direction. For Robin, that was life. He battled fierce storms, equipment failures, and once even ran out of food. At one point, he reportedly ate seaweed to survive. Seaweed. And if you're thinking, oh, but at least it's peaceful out there, imagine this. Waves taller than buildings, winds howling like a banshee, and your tiny boat tossing around like a rubber duck in a washing machine. Finding love in the middle of nowhere. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. In Fiji, Robin met Patty, a fellow sailor who would eventually become his wife. Yes, he literally found love in the middle of the ocean. Cue the romantic music. The two stayed in touch, and Patty even joined him for parts of his journey. After 5 years, yes, 5 years, Robin completed his journey in 1970, arriving back in California as a world record holder and global inspiration. He was only 21 but had already lived a life most of us can't even imagine. Now, let's pause for a second. Imagine being Robin, sitting at a reunion with your high school classmates. Someone asks, "So, what have you been up to since graduation?" And Robin casually replies, "Oh, just sailed around the entire planet. Alone." Cue jaws dropping and someone muttering, "I just got a part-time job at the mall." Or picture this. A concerned adult asks him, "Weren't you scared of sharks?" And Robin, with a straight face, says, "Sharks? Nah, I was more terrified of running out of peanut butter. Because, let's be real, running low on snacks in the middle of the ocean is a real crisis. And it wasn't just sharks. Can you imagine the audacity of the open sea? One day it's calm, like a giant blue carpet stretching endlessly. The next day it's throwing a tantrum, with waves so tall they make skyscrapers look like Lego pieces. And yet, Robin didn't just survive, he thrived. He faced every challenge with the tenacity of a teenager who's told, "You can't do that," and responds, "Watch me." Let's also not forget the other unsung heroes of his journey, his books. While most 16-year-olds were reading novels for English class, Robin was reading weather charts, nautical manuals, and probably How Not to Get Lost in the Pacific for Dummies. That kind of dedication is what legends are made of. His story reminds us of something profound, that age is just a number. People said he was too young, too inexperienced, and that it couldn't be done. But Robin didn't just prove them wrong, he rewrote the rulebook. Determination, guts, and a pinch of youthful stubbornness took him farther than most people will ever go. And seriously, who needs a driver's license when you can navigate an entire planet? Robin's story isn't just about sailing, it's about chasing the impossible and turning it into your reality. It's the ultimate mic drop moment, except instead of dropping a mic, he dropped anchor. So, what can we learn from Robin Lee Graham? It's simple. Life's biggest adventures don't happen in your comfort zone. Sometimes you've got to take the plunge, whether that's chasing your dream job, starting a passion project, or, sailing around the world in a tiny boat. If this story inspired you to dream bigger, drop a comment below with what adventure you want to tackle next. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, the world is your ocean. Go make some waves.